Hello and welcome to HealthyHouseplants.com, where we teach you all about gardening in the great indoors. If you'd like to support our show, please use our Amazon affiliate link below. Today we're checking back in here with Marco. He's a Parlor palm that appeared in a prior video. That prior video was about Parlor palms history, so if you want to learn all about how they were well thought of and grown back in Victorian times. I talk all about that and how they came to be in our indoor gardens today. So this plant is lovely. It makes a really nice statement in your indoor garden because it has such a beautiful growth pattern. You can get the palm-like look, a tropical look indoors with this beautiful palm. Today I'm going to talk about how to grow the palm and how to have a healthy palm in your indoor garden. So this one, as mentioned, was in a prior video. So they are slow, they're fairly slow growing plants. So when you have them, you can expect 2-3 inches a year around that, maybe 4, but they're not going to sprout up and grow really quickly for you. So keep that in mind when you get a smaller one. If you want a little bit of a bigger palm, you're going to need to invest in a bigger palm if you want that look more quickly. So how to keep these guys happy and healthy? They are pretty easy to grow. So that's one really good thing. They're a really good starter plant for a lot of indoor gardeners. So I would definitely recommend them for beginners. And they, of course, for all kinds of indoor gardeners, they're a lovely addition. So the top thing to consider is, well, there are many top things, but going to start with lighting, which is always one of the top things for sure. They are considered low light palms, but that doesn't mean no light. Parlor palms will do their best in bright filtered sunlight. They often do well with northern exposure as long as outside of the house in that northern exposure, it's not blocked by other buildings or trees or something like that. So in that case, it would be way too dim of a conditions. They also do really well in eastern winters where you get the morning sun and then afternoon shade. So keep that in mind. They also do well under artificial full spectrum lighting. So that's another option if you tend to have a darker space. Soil. Indoors, any high quality peat-based potting soil will suffice, but it needs to have good drainage and it needs to also retain moisture. So stay away from the soils, and I do have videos on soils. I'll put a link below. Stay away from the soils that are all barky and just basically ground up bark. That's not going to retain enough moisture for the palm, and it's not going to do well. Watering. Like many palms, Parlor palms are sensitive to overwatering, and they can't tolerate being waterlogged or sitting in a saturated potting mix or sitting on a saucer that's filled with water. So make sure you don't do that you don't overwater and that you don't let them sit in water. However, they do like to be kept with an even moisture at an even level. So do water them when they're about 4, approaching the 3. So you do want to err on the side of drier rather than wetter, but you preferably don't want to keep letting them dry out over and over again. What'll happen is you're going to lose a lot of leaves. They're going to get more sparse growing if you do that, and they just won't grow that fast. They'll grow really slow if they're dry all the time. So do keep them evenly moist. Like I said, the 4 on the moisture meter is a really good spot to then water. And yellow fronds will indicate that the plant needs more water. So if you're getting a lot of yellow fronds, that could be a sign that it's not getting enough water. However, if you've been watering like crazy and you get yellow signs, that is an indication of root rot. So check out my root rot playlist as to what to do about root rot if you think you've overwatered your palm tree. Temperature and humidity. The Parlor palm prefers room temperatures between 65 and 80 degrees. So that's a pretty good range. A lot of houses are like that. That's 65 and 80 degrees Fahrenheit. It can tolerate a low of 50 degrees, but it's going to die if you have it out if it gets hit by frost. So not one that you want to put outside unless you live in an area where you can grow semi-tropical plants, such as I am in Southern California. So I could put this out, but I wouldn't be able to put this in our sun. I'd have to have it in a shaded location. This guy is growing indoors. Keep the parlor palm away from cold drafts near windows and that sort of thing, and outside doors opening and closing, especially during the winter months, especially if you are in a cold climate. It generally is okay with average humidity, 40 to 60%. It does fine, so you don't really have to worry about trying to get it all humidified. If you do start to get a lot of brown leaf tips and you're watering correctly, it may need a little extra humidity. In that case, put it on a humidity tray. Make sure, like as mentioned, that it's not in a drafty area. Also, near heating and air conditioning ducts can just dry it out a little too much, so just move it away from those sorts of situations if that's the case. You want to feed this guy with a dilute form of fertilizer. So I do have my Green Gourmet houseplant food. I'll put the link below. If you use that, I suggest making holes, and I have videos on how to do that, and sprinkling a little bit of fertilizer into those holes. So when you do that, just that, or if you use any other fertilizer, just cut the dosage in half. So do a half strength. So say something says 1 tablespoon of liquid fertilizer per gallon of water, just use half a tablespoon of the liquid fertilizer and then go ahead and water and fertilize with that. Because they are a little bit susceptible to root burn when they get a little too much fertilizer. They're very light feeders, so keep that in mind. I wouldn't feed them. I would feed them about every 2 to 3 months with a diluted form of fertilizer. As I mentioned, they don't need to be fed every month. They have a weak root system, as mentioned. It's not so much weak, it's delicate, let's say, root system. As mentioned, they grow very slowly. They won't need to be repotted very often. Margot here is coming on needing a repotting. I will most likely do that within the next month or two. But you don't want to repot quickly after you've planted it and then continue to repot. As you know from what I talk about, you want 2/3 plant to 1/3 pot. The palms can even go 3/4 plant to 1/4 pot before you have to rewater them, have to repot them. So that's rule of thumb there. Infrequent repotting, but you will at some point have to repot. As mentioned, they have a delicate root system, so be very careful when you do repot that you are gentle with the roots so that you don't lose any roots along the way. They can get, in terms of pests, mealybugs and sometimes scale. So keep a lookout for those and treat immediately with both. You can treat with isopropyl alcohol, at least 70% straight spray on, and then also scale you can often get rid of with neem oil, which is another really good thing to use, organic solution to getting rid of pests on your parlor palms. So that is it for having really healthy, pretty parlor palms in your indoor garden. Thank you for stopping by today. Please leave any comments about any indoor gardening tutorials you'd like to see. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, and share this video. And please check the bell if you'd like to be notified when new videos are released.